Good morning. This is a student life panel. We get the call and response. Good morning.
Good morning.
So much better. I could feel that energy. I know you wanted to give out some of that this morning. Listen, we are so happy to welcome you all here. It is, I know, a big momentous time for you and your loved ones. And one of the main things that I hope this panel of talented team members will do is help you see the kinds of resources we have to help our students, your students, succeed here at Reed. I want to say to you, I'll be seeing you at the end of the day. I'll be seeing you at convocation. So I'm kind of a feature of today. And if I'm doing this for quite some time, I do know it's emotional. It's a time when you have lots and lots of questions. Hopefully we can answer many of those questions. I just grabbed a button from my colleagues here that says, "Ask me for help." I'm putting it on so that when I walk back across campus, people know. We're an ask me for help kind of community. I will say maybe you were visiting with your student a few months ago and you started looking at the map, that's up in the middle of campus. Chances are good that somebody would say, "Can I help you find something?" Right? And that's an example of the kind of community this is. And so I won't go on and on this morning because I know there's a lot going on. And I'm so proud of everyone sitting at this table, proud and honored to work with them, and also really proud of Reed College. The one point I'll make today with you this morning, which I may have made in some session that you saw as you were thinking about Reed, is that Reed is a truly distinctive institution. I've been at other small colleges, and I know that all the liberal arts will say that they're distinctive and unique. And I'm here to say Reed really is. Really. And when I say that, I'll note that the focus that we all have on the academic program, your students desire to come here because, to put it in a nutshell, they like school. They like school. They'll be sharing with you so many exciting things that they're learning, and not the least of which is this beautiful environment that we're in today. So please enjoy, ask lots of questions, know we're here to help, and I look forward to seeing you along the way today and saying goodbye to you at the end of the day. So welcome again. Thank you so much for being here.
Thank you, Audrey. Again, good morning, folks.
Good morning.
All right. I know it's early in the morning, but y'all are used to getting up early. So your students, they get to probably sleep in a little bit this morning. They were up late last night. Last night I actually had the opportunity to spend about an hour and a half with your students, and let me just say, they are ready. They are ready for this experience. They are excited. They're excited about how they can contribute to the environment, how to create spaces for belonging for their peers, for each other, to be curious intellectually, but also curious about just life things that were going on. So I literally left last night and I was just like, oh my gosh, this is the class. This is an amazing class that's going to do some phenomenal things here at the college. Just for quick introductions, my name is Dr. K. I use he, him pronouns. I'm the vice president for student life here at the college. I'm starting my 5th year here, which is great. I'm excited because I've seen a lot that has happened from 2020 when we were outside. Actually, we did this session in 2020 virtual. We were just saying this. We were doing this session virtually, and then we did it out under the tent, and like all this, and then we're finally in this space where we could come back and just be in community together, which is really important. So today, as I know you probably have lots of questions on your mind, and our hope is to be able to help answer some of the questions and thoughts that you may have. Also, one of the things is that I'll be facilitating today's panel, and we'll spend the first half of it with folks asking or sharing a little bit about their areas and things of that nature, but then really the opportunity to ask questions, because I know folks have questions. So we like to provide that opportunity for our parents and family members and guardians and all the folks who came to support their student. So today I'm going to start first by just asking folks to introduce themselves. We'll do the full run through first of folks introducing themselves, and then I'll give you a little bit more clarity about how the run of show will happen for this morning. So we'll start with my first colleague, just to introduce yourself, name, pronouns, and your role at the college.
Good morning, I'm Alice Hara. I'm the director of Center for Life Beyond Reed. I use she, her pronouns, and I'm starting my 10th academic year at Reed, and I have to say, I've heard about your students all summer long, and I can't wait to meet them.
Hi, my name is Christy Martin. I use she, her pronouns, and I'm the Title IX and Section 504 coordinator for Reed.
Morning, my name is Gary Granger. I use he pronouns. I'm the director of community safety, or the minister of mischief, as I call myself. I'm beginning my 15th year here at Reed.
Good morning, everyone. My name is Jessica Chi. I use she or they pronouns. I'm the Associate Dean in the Office for Institutional Diversity, so I oversee the Multicultural Resource Center and our C's Community Engagement Program. I am starting my 10th academic year here at Reed.
Hello, everyone. Did anyone sleep last night? Just raise your... Okay, great. Thank you for sleeping. Steve Aberhow, Associate Dean for Academic Life here at Reed. I work as one of the deans in our Student Life Office. I've been here starting my 3rd year now. Thank you.
All right. And my name is Chris Dutain. I use he, him pronouns. I'm the Martha A. Darling Dean of Students here at the college, and I'm also starting my 5th year.
So when we get to the point of asking questions, you'll remember their names because I put them up behind them. So you'll know who you want to talk to, the question that you may have of folks. So to just give you a little start again of the format for today, we'll do brief overviews of the areas that are represented this morning. Our panelists have prepared information that they want to share that I think is going to be important for you all to know. We'll have, as you can see, we have mics so that folks can hear. When we do Q&A, we will come around because we want to make sure that folks are able to hear. So if you have a question, we'll come around with the mic at the Q&A section so that you can ask your question. One of the things I always say before we dive into things is that I'm sure your students are still a little shy and they don't want all their business out in the world. And so this is a recorded session, FYI, so that parents and families who couldn't make it can also be able to see the session. The other piece of this is that I would ask that if you have very specific questions about your individual student, hold off. Don't ask them fully here. Do it in a more general terms. We will have our colleagues, some of our colleagues will be available at the end of the session to have kind of one-on-one conversations if there's something very specific that you're like, hey, I need to know this specific thing that will help my student, or a personal item that they would want that you want to know. These folks here can help answer some of those questions. So again, don't tell all their business. I don't think they would appreciate it. The other piece of this is that my hope is that we'll wrap up about 9:55. So again, you can have an opportunity to ask some of the individualized questions, but to also get you over to convocation, which is one of the important elements of the start. And that's where all your tears will happen. That's where well, actually, you've probably already been crying. So let's be real. But you'll see the pomp and circumstance around the faculty welcoming students to the academic program. So with that said, I'll start over with Alice to give us a start of talking about her area.
Thank you, Carnell. So I have a couple of quick points. A little bit, I want to do an overview of Center for Life Beyond Reed, and then I want to share a little advice. So Center for Life Beyond Reed at Reed is slightly different than you'll see at other colleges. We, from year one, want to help your students explore and clarify their purpose, or what we call their community of purpose at Reed. They do that through campus jobs and job shadows and internships and clinical experience and different ways that they begin to explore so that they know and that they're ready for post-bac options, which at the Center for Life Beyond Reed includes advising for graduate school, national fellowships, and work. So we advise in what we call an integrated holistic model. So we're weaving all those experiences together, all those post-bac options together with the students so that they know everything that's possible for them when they get ready to launch from Reed. We don't start with what do you want to do for the rest of your life, because all of you know that question will get their shoulders up around their ears and close their mouths and nothing. So we really talk about what do you care about, what lights you up, that they don't have to know the answer to any question. In fact, we don't ask them questions they don't know the answer to when they come to see us at the center. And what we want them to do is see that what they care about, so if it's sustainable life on Earth, or the care and cure of illness, or investing in financial responsibility, or art and beauty in the world, or one of the many communities of purpose that we look at, we want them to see how they begin to explore that, again, through experience, through campus jobs and internships and talking to alumni and networking. And this all starts in year one. So my second point is this is our first year strategy, is to help students feel like, first of all, they belong here. We don't start talking about out there quite yet. So peer career advisors, we have 5 of them who are very well-trained peer advisors. They are assigned to each of your students. Each of your students has a peer career advisor. They'll find out who they are this week. And the peer career advisor just starts with a sense of grounding and belonging here, but also resources that they can get in funding, because first-year students are eligible for Career Advancement Fund, which is up to $500 to do some of that exploration that I just talked about, or Summer Internship Award, which is $4,700 to do an internship at a nonprofit during the summer, or even the President's Summer Fellowship, which is $5,000 to do a creative project during the summer. So first years are eligible for many of our fundings. So we like to start them there because we begin to scaffold their knowledge of how to apply for increasingly competitive funding. So that's a skill for life. So if we teach them to apply for a Career Advancement Fund first, and then scaffold it up to a Summer Internship Award, maybe their sophomore year, then maybe a Watson or a Fulbright in their senior year. So the third point is here's a little bit of advice for parents, because you asked that. So I would just say that employers and graduate schools and medical schools and law schools and national fellowships, they look for interesting people. And think about that when you make your own hire. So I really, this first year, encourage them to deepen their interests. And that will really set them up for their sophomore year. If this summer they want to write and produce a play, or spend time in museums, or read 36 novels, whatever it is they want to do, learn some languages on their own, have them deepen their interest, because by their sophomore year, we're going to start matching them with alumni mentors. And that really sets them up well if they've done some things that they're interested in. My fourth point, and the last thing I want to say to bring your shoulders down out of your ears, is they will get jobs. So they will go to graduate school. They will win national fellowships. So at Reed, about 80% of the students, when they first leave Reed, go to work first, and about 20% go to graduate school. But eventually, within 5 to 10 years, about 65% of our students go on to graduate school. So we're also a top producer of Fulbright. We're one of 40 schools that does the Watson across the country. We're known for we haven't had one recently, but we're known for having many roads. And so the work that we do at the Center for Life Beyond Reed and advising them from their first year helps them get ready for that. So again, my team tracks them if we don't see them by senior year. Thank you so much.
Hello. Again, my name is Christy Martin. And I didn't say how long I've been here. I have been at Reed. I'm starting my second year. I started here as the Director of Academic Support and did some work in disability resources, and started in the Title IX and Section 504 position in February, so 7 months. In regard to my office, Title IX and Section 504, I'll start with the 504 piece. I'll start with both. My office is in charge of ensuring equitable access to education for students on the basis of sex, gender, and ability. So that's kind of the umbrella that I oversee. The 504 part, Americans with Disabilities Act, that's the disability piece. And I would say for that piece, my goal is to just ensure that we're proactively exploring access here at the institution, as well as collaborating with our disability and accessibility resource team whenever needed to ensure that students have their needs met. As far as Title IX is concerned, it's a mix of both proactive and reactive functions as well. So trying to ensure that gender and sex are not identities of discrimination here, and that covers anything from disparate treatment to sexual assault and harassment, and making sure that we have safe spaces. I partner a lot with the SHARE program, which is Sexual Health Advocacy and Relationships Education. SHARE is an incredible program that Reed has that does a lot of proactive programming and provides a lot of personal support to students. But partnering with them to do what we can to do proactive things to make sure that students learn about how to navigate relationships in productive and healthy ways, as well as provide reactive services when a student encounters a problem to be able to make sure that they have support, they know their rights and resources, and connect them with those systems and guide them through, make sure that they run right. So that's my work. As far as some relevant advice is concerned under my umbrella, in the almost 20 years I've been working in higher ed, I kind of see a normal pattern where a lot of students go into college hoping for a fresh start and to do things on their own. They might not want the trauma that they've experienced in the past to follow them into college, or they might want to try to do school without accommodations for a disability. And while I certainly appreciate and understand that want, the thing inside them that says, I want to be able to do this on my own, I don't want to have help, right? I think one of my goals is to normalize help seeking. Like, what adult doesn't need help? Every one of us in this room knows that we need help, right? And to say, start with as much help as you think you might need, and then as you find that you don't need it, you can let things go. But set yourself up for success instead of seeing if you can go without until you're struggling, and then it might be a little too late to do a helpful intervention that's going to actually salvage everything, So that would be my advice for you, is encourage your students to get as much support as they could possibly get to start college off with, and then when they don't need it, they can let it go. And then also just ask lots of questions if you have anything you want to know. Thanks.
Good morning again. My name is Gary. I'm the Community Safety Director. So Christy's advice is fabulous. Ask for help. If there's one thing I want you to remember about the Office of Community Safety here at Reed College, is that we're here 24 hours a day, every day, no matter what. And so our dispatch center down in the building on the west end of campus, there's always someone there. If you call our phone number, a human will pick up the phone, and that human will be able to connect you with the resources. And so advice for you to give your student, whether or not they'll listen, I don't know, but is to use that resource. There's so much they don't know about the college and how to navigate college right now, despite them thinking they're ready. And so if they can't figure out what to do, if they're afraid, if they're alone, if they're confused, if they call us or stop by our office, because we're always there, we will be able to get them the resources they need. Most of the time it's not us, unless they've locked themselves out of their room, which is our most popular call. But if it's not us, we know the people who can get them the resource that they need. So a little bit about the shop that I run. Excuse me. Most of you would know me in other institutions as the chief of police or the director of campus security or similar titles. Here at Reed, we call it community safety. We are not police. I don't do police work anymore. It's been a long time. I'm happy not to do police work in the ways that I did before. So we're not police. We don't make arrests. We don't carry firearms. However, we do enforce the rules. And so I don't want to confuse us not being police with there not being any rule on campus. We have rules. We have policies. We do enforce those. However, we use a restorative justice idea. We talk about how people can be restored to the community. We talk about accountability measures, not punishments, right? And it might sound like semantics, but how we speak about things influences our thought. And so we want the students to think of us as people, yes, we enforce the rules, but you don't get kicked out of college because you're 18 with a beer, right? Some of the things that are in my portfolio include emergency preparedness, personal safety on campus, and of course our alcohol and other drug policy, which might get a lot of press or maybe in your minds, but it is not the majority of our work, and it is part of our work as well. And I'll be talking to your students this evening about that particular policy and how we do that work. My shop is a major partner in our harm reduction program on campus, and so harm reduction at Reed begins with trying to help students have really healthy ways to express themselves outside of the classroom. Lots of good things they can do that are good for them and good for the community. we have therapeutic interventions, and we have enforcement, right? Harm reduction also looks like having Narcan in all of the buildings on campus. Harm reduction looks like having a medical amnesty policy. So if your student or someone else is in need because of substances and they call for help, there's no discipline for that. And so there's always follow-up and there's always intervention, but there's no discipline. So we're part of that harm reduction collaboration with our folks on campus. And finally, I'll end where I began, which is we're open 24 hours a day. We always have people on campus. We always have somebody sitting in our office ready to take a phone call or talk to a student if they come into the building. We have hot chocolate. We have a nice place to sit down and talk. So that's the single most important advice. Repeating what Christy said, which is encourage your students to ask for help when they think they might need it and not 3 times later when they didn't ask for it. And welcome to Reed.
Hi, everyone. So the 2 areas that I oversee are the Multicultural Resource Center and our SEEDS Community Engagement Program. SEEDS is an acronym. It stands for Students for Education, Equity, and Direct Service. And so I would say, I think broadly, in service to our diversity, equity, inclusion goals here at Reed, what we're hoping to do is help students find a sense of belonging. You're going to hear this a lot, but we really value community here at Reed, and so one of the things that my area tries to do is help students find that community both on and off campus in the broader Portland community. So for the Multicultural Resource Center, we understand that students are coming to us from a variety of different cultural backgrounds, heritages, and we want them to make sure that they are able to find a sense of community on campus and connect with students who also share those same interests and connect with students who are very different from them, right? So I think the diversity of college is what makes this experience great, and so we want students to be able to interact across difference. And so we have a lot of ways that we do that. We facilitate that through different types of programs and events, and one of the programs that I run is the Peer Mentor Program. So I've had the honor and privilege to spend the last 4 days with some of your students in the Peer Mentor Program pre-orientation experience, and they're already such a wonderful group. I think we were just talking before this panel, but they are eager, they're very independent, they're already, I think, exhibiting some of these help-seeking behaviors that we're sort of encouraging them, and they want to get a right start off of college, and so that's really promising and positive to see. The Peer Mentor Program, like other programs at Reed, is really about peer support, and you're going to hear a lot about that at Reed we really value that sort of peer support networks that students put together for themselves, and we as staff are here to support them in that so they know what kind of community that they want to belong to, and they have agency and autonomy to create that community for themselves. In terms of off-campus community, we're in Portland. There's lots of different organizations that speak to our students in terms of their interests and passions. And we know that a lot of your students are coming to us with a deep history of community service. They probably did community service in high school. They may be connected to organizations, nonprofit organizations already. And so we want to continue that interest for them here at Reed. So SEEDS is a great way for them to find community service opportunities both on and off campus, but particularly off campus. And so if you didn't know already, students can earn credit for doing community service, so 2 of their 6 PE credits that they need to graduate, they can do through community service. If your student has federal work study, they can earn their federal work study wages through working off campus at a local nonprofit with Portland. Or if they just want to volunteer, we have volunteer programs that take students out into the community to do community service work. And so again, our goal is that they're finding community both on and off campus. And we really encourage that because I'm going to echo Alice's advice and say, one of the things that I think you can encourage your student to do early on now is to develop those deep interests. Sometimes they're already coming to us with a passion or interest area. We can develop that both on campus and off campus through our networks. And we find that students who do that, either getting involved in an on-campus club or organization, student group, or an off-campus internship, off-campus community service opportunity, that they're more engaged, they feel more connected to their college experience. They are able to network and find jobs in the future, and they have a broader sense of civic engagement and what it means to be a citizen of a community and to give back to that community in a positive and sustainable way. So those are things that we are encouraging through the areas that I oversee, and I'm really looking forward to meeting more students of your students this week. And yeah, I'll go Gary and say welcome to Reed.
Wow. Very impressive. Hello, everyone. Steve Abrahau. That is me. That was 3 years ago. This place does put some gray in, but that's okay. So I have the opportunity of working with 3 offices here at Reed. One deals with academic support resources like tutoring and coaching and writing support. One works with students with accommodation needs in academics, PE, or housing accommodations. And the other office that I oversee is our International Student Service Office. My primary role really is helping students navigate a path towards graduation. So I work with students that in their time here, they experience challenges or changes that really have impacted their 4-year degree plan here at Reed. When they originally came here today, they're looking forward. So I offer them interventions and options and resources and support. So my goal is really to help them get towards the end here. So I'm excited about today because I get to meet your students. I'm also seeing them throughout their 3, 4, sometimes 5, maybe 6, but 4-year path to graduation. Quickly about those offices, academic support, I hope you're hearing is that Reed really does offer this wraparound services. So where you're hearing a lot about different offices, Student Life oversees 15 plus offices. So you're getting community safety, you're getting college, journey awareness. My office has really looked at what does academic support look like for your student. Some of them might need some, as STEM majors, some pre-cal, remembering some pre-cal and calculus level work, right? So we offer those type of peer tutoring for those academic courses as individual or drop-in. There's unlimited drop-in hours. They get up to 1 peer individual per week, per class. So they got tons of options for tutoring, for our coaching, talking about study skills, time management, things like that. Our accommodations office, again, is our largest minority population here at Reed, represents 33% of this campus. So those students are seeking access and inclusion to fully participate here at Reed in the classroom, in their housing, and those required PE requirements. Lastly, our International Student Service Office represents about 8% of our campus, over 150 students from 30 regions and territories. So for them, we're looking at a compliance piece, making sure that their F1 and J1 visas are intact. The other piece that we're looking to is helping them transition here to life in Portland, Oregon, as well as building a sense of belonging here at Reed. So we have 3 offices that I oversee and partner with that really get to spend a lot of time with your students. I think what I'll echo is some feedback I actually heard from a student who works in our admissions office. So she's a staff member. She actually started Reed when she was 15 years old. And so we had a conversation about why she started college when she was 15. But then she told me, I was like, what piece of advice would you give yourself? And she's like, I wish I would have known how to ask for support, either for academics or seeking interest in community work or student engagement pieces. And that was the one thing that she felt like she struggled with, was really just being able to ask for support. So advice that I would give is if you hear your students and you're talking to them or most likely texting them and they're saying, I feel disconnected, I'm like, there is somebody here on campus that is happy to talk to your students and make them feel like there's an opportunity for them to access those supports and resources and build their sense of belonging here. Sorry. Our offices also have hot chocolate and coffee and tea, so not just Gary's office has hot chocolate.
We have coffee.
An important reminder. So I work with, in the Dean of Students role, I'm here to be a primary support and advocate for your students. I work very closely with our Dean's team, and so primarily with Steve's functional area, I also work very closely with our residence life, campus engagement, and student support cluster area, as well as our rights and responsibilities office. And so I find myself working with students really across the student life environment, and I think one of the things that I want to talk a little bit about is parent and family communication, and maybe to unpack a couple misconceptions that I find myself bumping into. I ran into a number of parents last year during Parent and Family Weekend who were kind of quietly coming up to me and saying, like, hey, Chris, I know you can't talk to me, but no, I can talk to you. I can talk to you about all sorts of things. I may not be able to share specific details out of respect for your students' privacy. However, I'm always happy to talk about what it is that we do in student life, how our policies, procedures work, how decisions get made, what different pathways your students may be navigating, because a lot of those are not unique to your specific student. Your student is experiencing them in a very specific, individualized way, but it's a pathway that students are regularly walking. And so I'm always more than happy to talk with you about that so that you can have a conversation with your student about how they can best come back to our office, work with us in a way that also supports their autonomy. I think on the other end of that parent and family spectrum, the folks with a misconception that we can't talk to them at all is a parent or family member who calls me up and says, let me give you the down low on what's going on with my student, and then I would like you to go intervene, but please don't tell them I called you. And more often than not, I end up having a follow-up conversation with that parent about, like, do you think your student has told a lot of people about this thing that they're experiencing? Oh, no, they wouldn't tell anyone. Okay, so if I go intervene with them, they're going to know that, okay. And more importantly, we've missed an opportunity for developing some of that student autonomy. And so most often my conversation with that parent is, please, I'm all ears. Talk to me about what's going on. I can talk to you about our processes, how things are happening here, and then you are in the best position to go back and talk to your student with a more clear understanding of what's going on the ground here. Go back and talk to your student. It's an opportunity for you and your student to increasingly build your relationship and trust around how they're navigating the Reed environment, and it sets them up to have, again, a moment of autonomy when they come back and work with us. So that's what I would leave you with today.
I just wanted to mention one quick thing besides we have cookies. It sounds like we are 7 different, under one VP, 6 different offices, but we're really, like Audrey said, a really close community. So I want you to know we see each other quite a bit. We have a lot of respect for each other. We're in a lot of meetings together. And we know how to move students between us. We want to connect the dots, not make more dots for your students. So just so you know, we're a very collaborative group. Just wanted you to know that.
I'll talk just a bit about our health and counseling cluster. So that's one of the areas that also reports up to student life and to me directly. So our health and wellness cluster has 4 areas. You already heard about one that Christy shared, which was the SHARE program, Sexual Health Advocacy Relationship Education Program. But we have 3 other areas. So if you just look to your left or my right, we see a building that's just right there. It looks really beautiful. We're excited that it's going to be reopening for first day of classes, brand new. We're just really excited about it. So that's the athletics, where our athletics, fitness, and outdoor programs offices are located. And we host a number of programs throughout the year. And as you heard, we do have a requirement that students take PE. And so part of this is, again, thinking about their holistic well-being. So it's not just about them being very great intellectual students in the classroom, but how do they also take care of themselves outside of the classroom? And we also recognize that sometimes students need more support and services when it comes to our health and counseling side. So medical services is one of those areas, and then the counseling center is the other side of it. So we provide acute support services from the medical side, meaning that we handle a lot of different things that students come in that they would see normally for their primary care physician. So if there are things that you're like, hey, we need to get this on the radar, feel free to reach out to the HCC. That's the Health and Counseling Center for short is HCC. Reach out to the HCC. They're ready. They're excited to help support your student. Students, I'm going to be honest with you, not everybody will say, oh, I love going to the health, going to go see my doctor or going to go see a therapist or whatnot. Our students actually have a true appreciation for the work that our HCC team does. Again, everything from harm reduction to preventative care, things of that nature. Students love the folks over there. They're just a phenomenal team of medical providers. We have everything from medical assistants to FNPs to RNs we literally have almost everything over at the HCC. One piece is that there are things that sometimes go beyond our scope of service. And so we have our awesome case manager who helps to support our students getting connected to the community and community resources. And that case manager works very closely with all of the staff members over at the HCC. In addition to that, we do provide short-term counseling as well. And so typically students get anywhere around roughly 6 to 8 sessions per concern or issue that comes up for them related to mental health. We also have another layer to that. We have a program called You Will, which is one of our partners to help us provide additional sessions for our students. Typically, our You Will partnership is really the low-level kinds of things. I broke up with my significant other, or I'm feeling a little homesick, and I just need to talk to someone. I don't want to talk to my friends about it. I want to talk to my parents about it. I just want to have a conversation with someone just to problem solve or chat through things. And then our counselors primarily handle more of the high-level kinds of concerns. So, again, we like to see our students in person, and that's, I think, a staple of the READ experience is that we will see our students in person. We have throughout any day of the week, pretty much Monday through Friday, we provide drop-in kind of counseling for students who are experiencing emergent crisis situations. So there's always a counselor on duty to be able to help a student in the middle of the day if that's the case. After hours, we provide additional support and working and partnering, obviously, with community safety, but we also have our counselors who provide support who serve also on a rotation for our on-call team to provide advice and get them connected or getting them connected again to any medical facility that's required. So again, we have really a very robust counseling and health services, which I think is, again, an important part, especially at a time when students are engaging and learning to navigate their own journey, oftentimes without, the direct ask or the directness of telling your student that they need to go do these things. They tend we tend to offer and provide that support in the environment that allows them to just feel comfortable going and having conversations with the right folks. So Health and Counseling Center, again, really great folks, a team of folks over there that are doing phenomenal work. My piece of advice for you is, and I always share this story as part of advice that I give. I've been doing this work almost 2 decades as well, and one of the things that I think about oftentimes is I get to have good conversations with families and parents. I get to have not so good conversations as well. And so my thing is, if we're having a ball on campus and you're one of those parents who are like, oh, I want to show up to the ball and dance with my students and just, I want to have an eye on, see how they're doing, don't be that parent. And let me be honest, it has happened. I'm going to tell you, it has happened. And I've had to be like, and the student's like, my dad is over there. And I'm like, what is your dad doing here at the dance? So that's one side of it. The other side of it, which is the parent who's really, really all in. They want to make sure that their kid is going to be successful. The other side of it is the parent who says, we give them a call at 2 o'clock in the morning because we're navigating an emergent situation. And they say, well, it's your problem. You deal with it. And I've had that side of it too. I don't like that side of it either. And so one of the things that I said, I always want to find our parents in the middle. Because we want you to be engaged. We want to be partners with you. We want you to be a part of this experience just as much as your student is a part of this experience. But there are boundaries. And so I want you to know that when we call you because we need your help. We want your help. We want your support. And so that's something that I think is just important for you to know, is that when we have experiences where things are really tough, the student may be experiencing high levels of trauma that we can't manage on our own, that it requires a community support, you are part of that community. And so please pick up our phone call. Please help us figure out, because you know a lot more oftentimes about what's happening, even from past life experiences with of things of that nature that will help inform how we navigate through supporting your kid. And you may even be like, okay, I should come visit campus so I can be there. Come on and help us. Yeah, we will love that too. It's not just the read, figure it out. Again, I just offer up that perspective again. Don't go to a Halloween dance, show up in costume and all that other stuff. Please answer our phone calls and say, yes, we can help. Again, we really want you to be in the middle, to be a true helper and supporter for the college experience for your students. So with that said, we're going to go ahead and open up for Q&A. So as I remind you, again, we are recording this session, and so we ask general questions. If you have specific questions, hold on to them. Again, some of us will be outside of the room afterwards, so that way you can ask some very specific questions. But there may be things that you're thinking about that maybe actually benefit everyone hearing from the general questions. So we have folks around who are going to be able to bring you a mic. So please use the mic to ask your question. And if you do, please introduce yourself. Don't tell us your student name, by the way. We don't want to, we want to again try to protect some privacy here. But tell us your name and maybe what area you're from, because if there may be parents from the same area that may want to connect, and then you can then connect your students together too, just in case that comes up. So, questions? We have one right here in the middle. Oh, perfect. We got here, and then. Yeah.
Hi, I'm Eric, California. I'm curious to hear what you guys think about electronic addiction.
Y'all heard the question.
I am addicted to my electronics, but I was just thinking.
Well, I would just say, I think one of the big pieces that we have, I think we find, and I think it's somewhat maybe a little different at Reed in some ways. Oftentimes you see our students, between social media and being connected to their phones and things of that nature. I think that's still a true reality. But I also think one of the big pieces that we offset with all of that is, again, offering opportunities for our students to be in community and connected with each other, which means putting your phone away, because it's more interesting to be in front of your peers and having conversations with your peers. You will see that when you go into the dining hall, students are connecting. I rarely see them on their phone when they're in community and in groups, where they're part of peer mentor programming, and then they're having conversations and enjoying those experiences. Where they're out in the, on an outdoor trip and experience, they're not on their phone, to be honest with you. They're actually engaging with each other. And even yesterday, when I sat with a group of students, normally you will see folks like, okay, well, we'll be on our phone, or they'll be doing things, and you're like, everyone was engaging with each other. And maybe that's just a sense of how things start at the beginning, but I think that's actually what happens throughout the year. It's like when they develop deep relationships with each other, I think the tech tends to take a back seat. But it's also still a real thing for a number of our students, especially beyond just cell phones. I think about our students who love video games, and that may be a way as a stress reliever in some ways for our students, or it also may be a way to build community with other students by playing video games together. So that's one piece of this. I think the piece around academics, so the question that I think I may also hear underneath that question is about the utilization of AI in the mix of maybe the academic experience. So our faculty colleagues are working, think about how they utilize, AI in a way to help strengthen the learning in the classroom. So some faculty members will clearly articulate, hey, you can't use AI on these things, and we would clearly articulate that. Some of them say, we want you to use it, and we want you to problematize what just came through that, So there's a combination of thinking about the technology from an academic experience, but then also utilizing technology from a social function of being in community together. So I don't know if other folks would add. Christy and Gary?
Just to put this out there too, I, again, not knowing exactly where the question comes from, Having worked in academic support and disability for a long time, I often think about when a habit is negatively impacting other functionality. So, at the point at which something becomes a diagnosable disability is when it's limiting someone's life functions, right? Some type of life function. So obviously, electronic addiction is not a disability, but I think about it kind of similarly in terms of like, is this negatively impacting other areas of my life? Is it negatively impacting my social outcomes? Is it negatively impacting my academic outcomes? And I often try to take an approach of just noticing and responding, like there's no judgment attached, but we're just trying to notice like what's happening or what's not happening, and then how do we take one step toward responding to that in a different and helpful way. So if you or your student is noticing that there's something being inhibited or some negative impact connected to how much time they're spending on electronics, I think that would be a place to say, let's notice this together, and then let's try to come up with one proactive thing that we might be able to do to chip away at shifting that negative impact. It's probably, rarely do we make huge behavioral changes overnight. It's never just a switch that flips, or I should say rarely. But trying to make at least some incremental changes to buffer those or mitigate those negative impacts can be a way forward.
And I would just mention and boost our PE requirement. So all students have to take physical education. I happen to teach mindfulness classes as well. And the physical education classes are in person. And I don't allow devices in my classes. And I don't think you can use a device while you're shooting arrows in archery or playing soccer. So I think Reed's experience, which is in person, in the classroom, with other humans, face-to-face, through PE and everything else, really encourages students to get out of the device and to interact with the humans and the landscape that we have here. Thanks for that question.
We had a question right here down below. Raise your hand high. There we go. Got the peace sign going. Oh, there we go.
Hi, thanks all. Thanks for all your work. My question was, when the student does call your office, are they going to be able to talk to you personally, or is it a member of your staff?
It could be a combination. Sometimes students get us directly. Sometimes they get a number of our staff members. So in student life, and then our partners over in CLBR and the Office for Institutional Diversity, we are student-facing, very front-facing. And so they will not only can they get us, but they will most likely get someone also on our team. Whether it's an area coordinator who lives in the residence halls with our students, whether it's someone in the Disability Accessibility Resource Office. Typically, if a student is calling for a very specific thing, our goal is to try to get them as close. We don't want to bounce them around, so we're going to try to get them as close to the right person that they need to have a conversation with, so that way they can. And it may not be me. If they want a pep talk, I can give a good pep talk. But I'm not doing the day-to-day of putting, providing accommodations or helping the students set up their accommodations. So I would say let's get them connected with Jess or Maddie to help them with navigating that, or connecting with Steve. Steve may be able to say, okay, here are going to be some of the things that you may want to think about before you go into that meeting or whatnot. So essentially what I'm saying is they can call any one of our offices. They may get us, or they may get a member of our team.
Can I just add to that? One of our operating principles at the Center for Life Beyond Read is to meet students where they are. And so 5 nights a week from 6 to 8 p.m., the peer career advisors are in the residence halls, primarily the first-year residence halls. And we are in Commons at lunchtime for drop-in, as well as sometimes the MRC. And so we try to be out and about, not just in our offices.
We have a question here and then one in the back.
Hi, I'm Andrew. I'm from Chicago, and I had 2 very quick questions. One of them has parts. My first question has to do with Title IX, and I wanted to know who the mandated reporters are on campus, and I think for me, more importantly, are there confidential resources that students can access without talking to a mandated reporter. Second question has to do with anonymous and reliable drug testing. And then the last question is, with regard to those, how are students informed of those services? Thanks.
Can you repeat the last part of your question one more time? I'm sorry.
Yeah, sorry, the last part was just how are students informed of those services?
Yeah. So to answer a couple parts of your question, all staff and faculty are obligated reporters of anything that may be a Title IX issue. So any behaviors that are prohibited under Title IX and that sex-based discrimination umbrella. So all staff and faculty, as well as some student worker groups, so our house advisors, some peer mentors, not peer mentors, a student senate, house advisors, student senate, judicial board, and any student workers who supervise other student workers are the people who are student workers who are also obligated reporters, so there's a few of them. And in terms of where students get information, so like I'm going to be doing a Title IX orientation for new students tomorrow. And there's also some like healthy relationships education that all of our students do. That comes kind of a collaborative thing it's mostly through the SHARE program. And then I have worked with Elle on that as well. But is that annual?
It is.
That one's annual for all students, yeah.
So in addition to what you just said, the confidential resources.
Thank you, sorry. So also, Elle Matson is the director of our SHARE program and serves as a confidential advocate on campus. So that we do have one like certified confidential advocate on campus that students can meet with, as well as the HCC. So any of our counseling staff and medical staff also are confidential resources to students.
Awesome.
And the drug testing?
I'll touch on your question about drug testing. So the college per se does not offer the testing of substances. For us to have a substance on campus that was illicit and then test it, there'd be a conflict there with the federal law and also with our policies in terms of those substances. There are student groups, so SSDP, Students for Sensible Drug Policy, on campus, and the HCC can talk to students about resources for substance testing. That's not something that my office does necessarily, but there are testing resources in the community, and the folks in our harm reduction program can offer students information about that kind of harm reduction.
Good morning. My name is Dave. I'm from Hillsborough. It's about 15 miles away. I really love the idea about deepening the students' interests outside of the classroom. I imagine that the demographic that you guys probably see kind of varies. Maybe you got the student who gets straight A's who could work 4 jobs at the same time, or the student who only has the bandwidth to get through the class. So my question to the panel is, can you guys provide some examples of like how you're able to cultivate the student outside of the classroom based on the bandwidth of the student?
Yeah, so I just want to repeat the question, I think, is how do we encourage students, or so give some specific examples of them doing some things outside the classroom. I would love to. So examples range from, like, just this week, we heard back from a student who, as a sophomore, we provided some summer internship funding. He actually did it in the winter break, though. It wasn't even internship funding, it was to do a job shadow. He wanted to study nuclear security in South Korea, and so we were able to send him there. He's currently doing his PhD at Princeton in nuclear security. So that's just an example of, we also, closer to home, OHSU, that's 186 Reedy's alums work at OHSU. And so providing short-term, we have funding for short-term clinical experience, if that's something that a student wants to look at in terms of not just pre-med, but healthcare. 1 out of 5 jobs in 2030 will be in healthcare in Oregon. And so we really want to encourage students to think about public health or some of those areas. So those are some examples. When we do summer internship award, those are for unpaid internships. We don't want to disadvantage anyone to get an unpaid internship at a nonprofit, so we help support the student with their funding. So that might be at Northwest Civic, it might be at Portland Art Museum, it might be, it's a range of social justice, art, government, education, journalism, any of sort of the areas. Oregon Public Radio is a great example. We had a student get funding to do a summer at Oregon Public Radio, which led to a summer at National Public Radio, which led to their own podcast with National Public Radio. So those are some examples of how we help a student kind of, again, scaffold their specific interests. And we're sort of concierge. This is a small college, and I have a really strong team of advisors. And so we can help them begin with something even as small as looking at the gallery here at Cooley Art Gallery, and then expand it all the way to MoMA at New York. If they get experience, we can help them scaffold their experiences. So those are some examples. I hope that's helpful.
I would add on the other side of that, being the social, the fun pieces that also, I think, cultivate our students and their interests, whether it be students engaging in the Gray Fund. So we have an outdoor Gray Fund, which is about helping our students get connected to the environment, this place. It's beautiful here. And that oftentimes is connecting with faculty and staff. So the thing about the Great Fund is that we bring faculty, staff, and students together to engage collectively. So you can imagine going on a camping trip or horseback riding with a faculty member or a staff member, and the conversations that students get to have with them is pretty dynamic. So that's one piece of it that I would also just want to add. Is like there's some fun things. And then I'm sure Jessica has some more.
I just wanted to, I think also what I heard in your question was the different capacities of students. So some folks may feel like they have more time to engage and some a little bit less. And so I just want to name that, yes, Reed's academic program is very rigorous and it does take up a lot of time. So students often will, especially early on, feel like they need to dedicate all of their time to their studies and may not feel like they have enough time to do some of the co-curricular things that we're talking about. So one thing that I always encourage students is what are ways that we can partner with the academic program to engage students in these things as well. So as folks have shared, there's been a couple of different opportunities, but for one example, if you have a student who's interested in community service, as I talked about before, but doesn't feel like they have time to do that, well, they can get the PE credit for doing that, right? So they're obtaining their PE credit. They may be in a class with a faculty member who's also interested in community engagement, and they can do community engagement work through their academic course, and then we would partner with that faculty to make sure that there's both in-classroom experiences and out-of-classroom experiences that they're both getting. Same thing with any of our programs and events. The more that we can involve faculty, so maybe it's bringing an interesting speaker to campus that does a public talk for the rest of community, but then that speaker also goes into the classroom, specific classrooms, right, that are related to that area of expertise, and they're engaging with students in that way. So then that way we're kind of bridging both academic experience that students are having with the co-curricular or outside of the classroom experience, and they don't feel like they're having to make time and space for two separate things, if that makes sense. So that's one thing that we encourage in terms of our programming, but something that your student can be thinking about if they feel like, especially early on in their first year, if they don't feel like they have a lot of time or capacity to be engaging, what are ways they can kind of bridge what they're doing in the classroom with what we're offering outside of the classroom as well.
I'm noticing we're getting low on time. So one of the things is that thank you for giving us our last question. And as I said, we will have folks be able to be out in the foyer here to answer individual questions. But before I let you go, one of the things I wanted to note is that on the back of your schedule, you'll see that there is an activity encouraging you to get to know each other. And it's a welcome letter from two of our parent and family leadership committee members. The committee and the Reed family really extends a warm welcome to you all and are glad you all are here. And so I want to say a big thank you to this panelist of folks here. If you could help me give them a round of applause. And my again, parting words for you is that as we know that this is a transition for your students, we obviously know that, but we also know that it's a transition for you as well. Some of you may have had your first kid going off. It may be the third kid going off. You may be, you're like, okay, I'm gonna have to do things differently when I get back home. All that happens, right? And so regardless of where you're at in this transition, please give yourself grace. because it's necessary. Celebrate the wins, the small wins that you have. You may find that you are excited about the time you get back. You don't have to have a long commute. You may not have to do some things. Like, celebrate those wins for yourself as well. And also make time to come back to Portland. Portland's a really great place. Reed's a really great place. And so we hope that you can come back, particularly during Parent and Family Weekend, as part of that. And so, again, the last piece here is that our team, the Center for Life Beyond Reed, the Office for Institutional Diversity, as well as the Student Life Division, we're so excited to support your students and support you all in making sure that they are successful. So this morning you'll see that convocation happens right after as well, and so that'll be starting at 10:30 out on the Great Lawn where the big tent is, and so we'll see you outside. Thank you all.